Thanks for joining us today on Craig's Gun Channel. Today we're taking the High Point C9 out to the range. We're going to go ahead and take some shots, see how it does. In complete open candor, this is a first out-of-the-box shooting for this particular pistol. Essentially we acquired the pistol, took it out of the box, and went out to the range and commenced to shooting. Now we did check to make sure that there was no obstructions in the bore and all that kind of stuff, but we didn't do any preparation work or anything to the pistol. It is as it is out of the box. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the footage, see how it did, and then we'll come back and give our comments and our opinions and thoughts on it. So we'll be right back.
Oh, are you kidding me? Right off the bat. Jeez. Think it shoots a little high.
You've got one of those operator-induced errors.
I do. Ooh. Man, you gotta get used to that trigger. Jeez. Okay, here we go. Hey, you see that?
I saw.
Man, I keep shooting high with this thing. That's a high point, gotcha.
Yep. Is that failure to feed? Double feed?
No, it got jammed up.
Oh, okay.
There was the casing didn't eject. It met in the middle.
Oh, come on. I had one of those operator-induced errors. There we go. There's operator.
Yeah, operator. Get you every time.
It's that feature again. I think it is actually settling in a little bit better.
And we're back from the range. That was a quick trip out there, the magic of editing.
Yeah, I love it.
So before we really get started, I do want to thank Splatterburst Targets. As you know, if you watch the channel, we go through a lot of targets, to make sure that it's a nice clean slate for when we're shooting, so people can see the shots. The Splatterburst Targets, they're wonderful. It's a wonderful product.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Very visible when you take those shots.
Yep,
yeah, so you can really see where things are going, especially at distance, because when you're at 15 yards away, it's really hard to see a little black hole on a black
on a black
background.
target, right?
On a black target. So Splatterburst Targets, wonderful. We've used a lot of them, and Splatterburst, they were kind enough to send us some targets for use on the channel. Targets, believe it or not, are one of the higher cost items that we have on the channel. Following, of course, ammunition. However, we go through a lot of targets because we want to make sure that every shot that we take is clearly shown. So I do want to thank Splatterburst for providing the support for the channel. So with that said, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to let High Point Steve lead the way with his thoughts, and then we'll go from there.
High Point Steve. Okay, here we go. We got a new name. Actually, I had problems with it right out of there. I had to smack it into battery twice. The trigger, oh my goodness, that thing is so heavy. If looking at my shots, it was really hard to tell. I mean, how much was the trigger, and I had a difficult time with it. The slide was like a truck riding on top. It was just so heavy.
Yep, I would agree with all those points. The slide, especially that initial round.
Yeah.
It just did not want to chamber that initial round. Now after that, it worked okay for the most part. We did have several malfunctions.
Right.
Some of those obviously were seen on the video. That initial round, and I know all the people that are the super High Point supporters, they'll basically say all the things, you have to wait for the gun to break in and all that, and there is some truth to that.
Yeah, I thought it did settle in after we got some, got some ammo down range. It did start to settle in a little better.
It did start to settle in a little better, but that's still a concern.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Because even after we did put several rounds through it, it was still kind of prevalent. I mean, occasionally you have to kind of tap that slide forward.
Give it a love tap.
Yep. And of course, we make light of it when we're filming, but the reality is that is a problem.
Yeah.
So that there's that. So what would you say about the? Well, you mentioned the trigger.
Oh yeah, that was terrible. What would you? It was like 10-pound trigger.
It comes in just under 10 pounds.
And that is a lot when you're trying, because you got any kind of muscle tweak or whatever that could be throwing it off a hair. It's just too much for a gun, a handgun, as far as I'm concerned. But I guess with that being said, one of my first guns was a High Point, and I learned to shoot on it. So when I actually paid a little bit more money and got a better gun, I'll tell you what, I was really good with it, because you drive it like like an old Pinto or something, and it takes you forever to get there and how to work it out, and then when you can step up to like a Cadillac or something, you can really appreciate the difference.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Trigger, trigger, it's horrible. It's a horrible trigger. It's among one of the worst triggers I've ever used on a firearm. Now, with that being said, and I know this also from experience. This, believe it or not, as much as we get accused of hating on High Points, Steve had one, early on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I bought one years ago, and you know, it's not that we don't like them. It's just we want to be realistic.
Right. It's the bottom of the barrel.
It is an entry level. This is the cheapest 9mm centerfire firearm that you can buy brand new, and you're going to get the level of firearm that you should expect when you are buying the absolute cheapest firearm that you can get. That's not a knock on it. I'm glad High Point exists. There are people that maybe this is all they can afford.
Right. And that'd be a great gun for
and
them.
it'd be a great gun for them then. It functions. It has some rough edges. And I don't mean rough edges as far as like, sharp points or anything. It's just as far as functionality. You got to knock that slide occasionally to get it in the battery. Now that was only on the first round. Usually after that it operated fine.
Right. It seemed to be the first round. Yeah, that would have happened twice, I believe.
Yep. And it happened with me a couple times. When I first tried the very first magazine I tried to put through it, I had all kinds of problems, and that was all magazine related.
Right.
And that can be,
I believe so.
Yeah, there can be adjustments made to the magazines to make that run better. But there again, that's just some of the things you should expect when you're buying a low-end firearm, and that is you might have to make some tweaks to it. And to that end, you can do a ton of things with High Points. I mean, this is a basis for a lot of people to do a lot of creative things with a firearm, to try to make it better. Now, some of the things that people do are not safe, so don't follow all of the advice that you get on the internet about how to make your High Point better. Some of that is just
that's scary.
Way bad and scary. The trigger is very heavy. A heavy trigger is better than one that ends up being too light. You get too light of a trigger, and it can fire itself just from the recoil of the previous shot. So that's not good. Now, 10 pounds is very heavy. They do get lighter. As you use them and they wear in, they'll come down usually around 7-ish pounds. Still heavy.
Still a lot, yeah.
But,
still a lot.
They do get better. And all of that contributes then, I would say, to the overall accuracy. So what's your thoughts on that?
Oh, the accuracy, yeah, it's it was probably about a foot.
I'd say that'd be fair.
Yeah.
And
there again, I don't know how much of it was the barrel and how much was that trigger, me trying to squeeze down on it. Was I pulling off just that little bit, or? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, I would agree with that. I think a lot of it is the trigger. The barrel is fixed to the frame, so
yeah, it should be accurate.
It should be accurate. But the sights are on the slide. The slide obviously is not fixed to the frame. It reciprocates. Now it seems to be tight. But there is play in it. It's tight when it's in battery, but there is a little bit of play in it, so it might not necessarily go to the exact same set point every single shot. And you'll notice that because there were times we were putting bullets right through where a previous bullet was. It just wasn't consistent. There'd be one that'd go right in there, and the second, maybe a couple shots later, right in the exact same spot. So you can tell the point of aim was the same. It's just the group size, it's large. Now, with all that being said, self-defense capability-wise, I don't think it's necessarily horrible for that. If you can keep it on target at 15 yards, and I know there's going to be people to say, it's like, well, you should be able to, keep an inch or 2-inch group. Otherwise, it's not any good. It's like, I'm of the philosophy, if you can get shots on center mass target, it's perfectly fine. That's what they train you to do. This firearm will do that.
Absolutely.
Now, with all that being said, if you can get a better one, you should if you can. This is a great gun if it's all you can afford until you can afford to get a better one.
Right.
Now, to prove that point, after we fired this one, we immediately followed up and we fired it with another one. So let's go take a look at that real quick. Okay, and we're back. And as you can see, it was a Smith & Wesson EZ9. Stat-wise, it's very similar. Barrel length, very similar. Round capacity, very similar. Cost, it costs twice as much. It's probably twice as good of a gun.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just really is. It functions fine. Now, for everyone that says, yeah, but it was shooting low and to the left, and well, that's true. This one also was shooting to the left. We did not adjust the sights on either gun.
Right.
So we know that the EZ9 is shooting to the left. That was something we already knew. And it does tend to shoot low. That's actually almost a criticism of that firearm. And it's one that we've noted on our review of it. It does seem to shoot low. And we've taken it out to the range several times, and that's not improving. It just shoots low.
Right.
It is what it is. What I want you to look at is the group size. The group size was much tighter. You can adjust the impact point either by aiming or adjusting sights, and that's on both guns. The problem is, well, not necessarily the problem. The reality is the group size on the Smith & Wesson was probably about like that, and there were a couple flyers, that just happened. The group size on this was about like that. So I mean, drastic.
Yeah, that's probably double the size.
Yes. And we fired these, like I said, it's the magic of editing. It's not like we had tons of time here. We fired this one, and then we turned around and we fired the Smith & Wesson. The results speak for themselves. It was a head-to-head test, and this does not perform as well. Now, would I say that you shouldn't get a high point then?
No, you get one if that's what you can afford. By all means, get one.
If that's what you can afford, and even if you can afford better firearms. I mean, I have better firearms now. Obviously, I acquire firearms for the channel, but it's not that I dislike high points. I have just as much fun shooting this as I do the Smith & Wesson. Really, the only pistol I get the more fun out of than any other one are my 357 revolvers, and that's just because I love those.
Yeah, just because it's a good time.
And it's just because it's a good time. I enjoy, as far as just shooting wise, I enjoy shooting, firearms, the high point. They're safe, they're reliable. Now, we had some functional issues. However, I am going to give some of that to the fact there is, some break-in and some tweaking, maybe
but right out of the box. So.
Just being right out of the box. Now, I'm not saying that that's a total excuse, because a firearm should function right out of the box. The people that say, oh, it needs to have a break-in, okay, I understand the concept of break-in, and every mechanical device will start to function better with a break-in. However, it should still function out of the box, and we had some functional issues with it. Now, with all that being said, if this were all I had, would I feel unsafe?
Oh no.
No. And not to make a joke of it, but if you run out of ammo, this is a heavy, solid chunk of metal. Quite honestly, you could use it like a club. I'm not trying to belittle or anything. There is that actually, I'm pretty sure. Did you send me that?
Yeah.
You sent me. There's an ad that it was actually ran. Great price for the high point. It was at $159.95. And I'll pull it up here so you can see it. And the people selling it, they have a sense of humor too, because we'll just look at it and see for yourself. So doubles as a hammer.
Yeah.
So it's not just a gun.
Yeah, it's a hammer. That's right.
So I guess with all that being said, we'll go ahead and kind of give the wrap up on our review. For the people who say high point is just as good as any other gun, I've heard people say high points are just as good as SIGs, or CZs, or Berettas.
Yeah, not even close.
They're not even close.
Not even the same game.
No, you're talking two totally different things. The only thing they have in common is they both shoot.
They go. Yeah, right.
And they both go.
They
bang.
go boom.
Now, for the people who say high points are just total junk and no one should ever use one and they're just unsafe and they're dangerous, that's not true either.
That's right.
These things, they're almost indestructible. You can just go and look up anything, high point torture tests. People have thrown these things into lakes, into ponds. They've driven over them. They've thrown them against brick walls. They've shot them with other guns.
Demolition Ranch shot one. Yeah, and it still fired.
Yeah, I mean, they're a good, solid I will say they're dependable because of all of that. They're just not as refined.
Right, right. You got to know what you're buying.
Yeah,
you know, if you go into it looking, you know, I spent under $200 on a firearm, you just spent under $200 on a firearm. So
Yep.
that's what you got to expect, what you're getting.
Yep, absolutely. So with that being said, I would say it's a perfectly fine, adequate firearm for what it is. You just need to understand what it is.
Right, absolutely.
So, do you have any other final words? Or?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I think so too. So, from Greg's Gun Channel, we'll go ahead and wrap up. Hopefully you enjoyed the content. If you enjoy content like this, please feel free to subscribe. Hit the like button. It helps with the algorithm to help people find our videos. We're not done with the high point. We're actually going to trick this thing out just to show you what you can actually do with them. So I'm going to be doing some trigger work with it. We're not going to show most of that on the channel because YouTube doesn't allow most of that. But what we will do, yeah, they don't like fun. What we will do once we're all done is we'll show you what the end result is, and we're going to take it out to the range and see how much better it does, if it does any better.
Right. I'm looking forward to it. I'm kind of optimistic.
Yeah, I think it's going to actually perform better. So when we're done, it will not be. It's going to. Okay, it's the same gun, but the total package as far as the price will be drastically different. I'll just put it that way. So.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. So until then, thanks for watching, and until until the next day, as always, stay safe.